here. I'm allowed 10 minutes. And of course, one of the objectives of many effective cross-examinations is to undercut the value of the witness's evidence. And sometimes you can do this without tackling the witness head-on. You can cross-examine them about other facts that might logically flow from their evidence, or from their statements, or flow to their evidence, to demonstrate that by their own admissions on other facts, their original statements are illogical. Sometimes at the end of the cross-examination, the witness may not realize that she has been undercut and that her statements have been rendered untenable, but the court may realize it. Now, an example of this, it's a hard thing to discuss, but an example of this is seen in the cross-examination of a doctor at the Susan Nellis preliminary inquiry. And you'll recall that Susan Nellis was a nurse who was charged with the murder of 4 infants at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto. She was alleged to have administered an overdose of digoxin, a heart drug, to them and to have killed them. Ultimately, of course, the court found that she was not responsible for any of the deaths, and later a Royal Commission of Inquiry confirmed that and exonerated her and indicated that the evidence as to those deaths pointed actually in a different direction. And the point of this whole thing is that during the preliminary inquiry, a heart specialist at the hospital testified before Judge David Vanek at the preliminary hearing to this effect. He said that shortly after Justin Cook, one of the infants, died, he glanced in Miss Nellis's direction, and she had a very strange expression on her face. There was no sign of grief. He said he thought it was very strange that this would be her appearance. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was a very damaging piece of evidence if it were accepted by the court, because it might be enough just to shove the case over the line and force Miss Nellis to a trial. And counsel cross-examined the doctor about previous contacts and relationships with Miss Nellis, her normal appearance, his knowledge of her emotional state, with a view to showing that he really didn't know much about her emotional range. In other words, the doctor's acceptance of other facts that were inconsistent with his observation demonstrated that what he purported to see that night was of no assistance to the court. In effect, the witness was folded in the illogic of his statement that her appearance was strange. I'm going to, at the risk of boring you, read from the transcript of that cross-examination because I think that it may demonstrate the point. And I've attached it. Now, as to Susan Nellis, and this is the cross-examination of the doctor, was she a close friend of yours? No. Did you ever visit her house? Never. Or her apartment? Never. Has she ever visited your house? Never. I think you said you knew her 1 year. Answer, just because she was on the ward. On the ward? Her brother is a resident on the ward, and I knew her father. Have you ever had lunch with her? Never. Or coffee? Never. Or dinner? Never. Have you ever had any sort of meaningful conversation with her about anything other than whether a baby has or hasn't had its medication and so on? Never. Have you ever worked a 12-hour shift in her company? Never. Did you ever see her since her arrest on March 25th, other than around the court and so on? No, I've never seen her since then. Did you ever see her grieving after a relative had died? Answer, I've never seen her grieving after because I don't know her. I've never seen. Did you ever see her upset? Ever? Never. Did you ever see her cry? No. Did you ever see her angry? No. Did you ever see her depressed or elated? No. Did you ever see her sad or shocked? No. Well, I'm going to suggest to you that you really don't know much about this lady's emotional range. You'll agree with that. Answer, I've seen many nurses who were looking after sick patients, and her reaction again was very unusual. Well, I didn't ask you that. I suggested that you don't know much about her emotional range. Answer no. You just don't know much about it. Answer no, except that it's unusual under the circumstances for a person to have that reaction. I'm dropping down, okay. Well, a number of witnesses here have described Susan Nellis as being a cheerful person. Do you know her well enough to know about that? Nope. She's easy to get along with. Do you know her well enough to even know about that? No, I don't work with her. You don't work with her. She's conscientious and eager. You don't even know that, I guess. Answer, no, I don't know that. I presume that she does her job well, or she wouldn't have been working in the ward. Do you think those people, whether nurses or doctors, who have worked on shift with her would be in a better position than you to describe her emotional states? Someone who knew her well and worked with her on shift, do you think? Answer, I'm not talking about her emotional state. I'm talking about her appearance under a certain situation. And I explained what she looked like. I don't know anything about her reactions, her emotional reactions. Well, my question was, do you think those who worked on shift with her over a period of weeks or a year, 12 hours a day, would be in a better position than you to describe Susan Nellis' emotional state? Answer, well, I'm not sure about that. Answer, you're not sure about the question, you're not sure about that because they haven't seen her in exactly the same situation I saw. Oh, I see. Well, we've had some witnesses here who spoke about that. There was a Mrs. Ober who gave evidence in this courtroom, and I've got it exactly as I can, that, quote, after Justin Cook's death, Susan Nellis looked tired and strained and pretty upset. Is that the type of reaction you would have expected from a nurse after her death? Yes. We have Mr. Cook himself, Justin Cook's father, who gave evidence here just a couple of weeks ago. He said, quote, there were tears in Susan Nellis's eyes, and she said she was sorry. Is that the type of reaction that you would have expected from a nurse after the death of an infant that she was looking after? Answer, yes, that's what I would have expected. Question, you would have expected that. Another nurse, Susan Reaper, said in this courtroom under oath, after the death of Justin Cook, quote, Susan Nellis was upset. She was smoking a cigarette. Is that the type of reaction you would have expected? Answer, I'm not sure. I don't know. Mrs. Lyons, Yvonne Lyons, one of the nurses on 4B, gave evidence in this courtroom that, quote, Susan Nellis was upset. Marie Mandel, one of the other nurses, I believe, on 4B, said, quote, Susan Nellis, after the death of Justin Cook, seemed to be in shock. Is that the type of reaction you might expect to see after the death of a child you were looking after? Answer, I don't know what that term means, I'm not sure. Question, well, you said she looked strange. Do you know what that term means? Answer, yes. Phyllis Traynor, who's the same lady Mr. McGee asked you about and whom you said you knew by sight anyway, the head nurse? Answer, I just knew her by sight, the way I know Miss Nellis. She swore in this courtroom just a couple of weeks ago that, quote, after Justin Cook's death, Susan Nellis was very upset. There were tears in her eyes. That's the type of reaction you would have expected. Answer, that's what I would have expected, but there was no evidence of that at all when I witnessed her. Question, when you witnessed her. Bertha Bell, a witness on 4B, swore in this courtroom some time ago, short time ago, that, quote, after the death of Justin Cook, Susan Nellis was upset. She was very quiet. I know Susan Nellis well. I know when she was upset. That's the sort of thing you'd expect after the death of a child you were looking after. Answer, yes. Janet Brownless, a nursing assistant, a registered nursing assistant on 4A, said that, quote, Susan Nellis helped Brownless bathe Justin Cook after the death of Cook, and that Susan Nellis was upset. Again, that's the type of reaction that would be normal. Answer, yes. And Mrs. Whittingham, who was also on duty, I believe, on 4B, said everybody was upset and feeling badly after Justin Cook's death, including Susan Nellis. Again, that's how you would expect the nurses to react. Yes. Question, now you swore you didn't see Susan Nellis, according to my note, until you were leaving the ward. Answer, that's correct. After the death of Justin Cook? Yes. So you didn't see her during the arrest or right afterward? Did you? No. You might not have had the same opportunity as these other people whose evidence I've outlined for you. No. Oh, yes, rather. Right. Right. You took a glance at her, I think you said. Answer, yes. She was seated at a desk writing out a description of what happened. Answer, well, I don't know what she was writing. She was writing something. Question, I thought you said she was writing a report. No, I don't know what she was doing. I presume it was a description of the final events, but she was writing something at her desk. Well, it would be her duty to write out such a description, wouldn't it? Answer, yes. Question, yes. She was looking down at a piece of paper while she wrote. Answer, yes. Apparently concentrating. Answer, yes. And you felt from your glance at her as you left the ward that her expression was strange. Answer, yes. It was not in keeping with a person who had just had a patient die under her care. So it was strange and there was no appearance of grief. Answer, of grief. Right. That's why it was strange. Is that correct? Answer, correct. Are you really in a position to tell this court how she was really feeling at that time? Are you? Answer, all I can do is tell the court what I saw, what you saw. You have no idea what she was feeling, do you? That's an inference you'll have to make yourself. Well, you just don't know. Do you know how she was feeling? Answer, no, I just know that what she looked like, and I've seen many people who were in that situation who don't appear like she did. In other words, she had no signs of grief. Question, she had no signs of grief, and that was strange to you? Answer, yes. Right, but you don't know how she was feeling. I mean, are you prepared to agree with that or not? Answer, I can't say that. You can't say. And you certainly don't know how she was feeling during the arrest or when the baby was pronounced dead or immediately afterward when talking to her nurses on the floor, do you? Answer, no, I didn't speak to her at all during that period. Question, right. Don't you think there is in this case also a chance of injustice in a murder case to speculate about what another person, how a person may or not be grieving after a... No, I didn't say anything about what she was feeling. I just reported what I saw. Thank you very much, Dr. Fowler. So, you had the doctor's statement that she looked strange. She didn't appear to be grieving. By the end of it all, that statement didn't have much worth because the doctor admitted other facts that he had to admit that were inconsistent with the value of his appearance, of her appearance at a glance. At the conclusion of the preliminary hearing, Judge Vanek held that he was unable to find any evidence of guilt from what a doctor thought was a passing glance, was a strange expression. Thank you very much.